Welcome, everyone. I see we have participants coming in. We're just going to give it a minute or two to let everyone get onto our training today, and then I will kick it off.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. If you don't mind, throw in the chat where you're calling in from and maybe even the company that you're here representing. Love to get to know you a little bit better.
Where are you calling in from, Ryan? Where in the US are you?
I am in Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Where it's super nice today. It's only like 92. It's awesome.
Woofda. Woofda. I'm up in Door County, Wisconsin. It's also nice today, though. 60s and sunny.
Oh, yeah, we put on our parkas at 60. That's cold
Yep.
for us Phoenicians.
I have broken out my long sleeve shirts already, so we're getting into fall here. Look at where everyone's from. This is great.
We got some other people here from Arizona. I love it. Thank you.
See Des Moines, Iowa. I'm going to Des Moines in a couple weeks here. Hi.
Indianapolis, Wisconsin. Planet Fitness, State Farm. This is great. I'm so excited to share this information with everyone today.
All right. Well, it looks like we have a good number of people on the call. I know some people are going to keep filtering in, but I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. Welcome, everyone. I'm Natalie. I'm the Senior Director of People at CareerPlug, and we're really excited to bring you some education today, which I think is going to be really valuable for your hiring and recruiting process. And we have Ryan here from Core Matters. He's the CEO over at Core Matters, one of our partners, and is going to bring some really great education on passive recruiting, attracting the right people for your hiring process. I'm just really excited to listen and learn and take it all in today. But Ryan, I'm going to pass it over to you to flesh out your introduction a little bit and talk about why we're here.
Yeah, Natalie, thank you so much for the intro. And yeah, Natalie's going to get to see this for the first time as well. So, but this is something that I'm super passionate about. So I'm just so excited to be here today. I might geek out a little bit, but I I commit to getting you guys out of here on time, maybe even a little early. But one last technical thing, give me a thumbs up for those of you on camera if you can see my slides. Are we good? Awesome. All right. That means everybody else can see them too. So as Natalie said, my name is Ryan England. I am the founder and CEO of Core Matters, and I'm so excited to have partnered with CareerPlug. They're doing so many great things in the space for not just a great software platform, but also how their hiring experts can support you and make sure that you're getting the number of applications and the quality of applications that you need. Real quick housekeeping thing. I just want to let you guys know this is interactive. I know we're in webinar style, but we've got the Q&A, we've got the chat. We've got Tammy here, Natalie and Lauren, who are going to be helping me facilitate this. So if you have any questions, if anything shows up and you're just like, hey, I need to understand that a little bit better, throw it in the Q&A. I'll make sure to get through all of your questions. And if it's something that's a little more specific, we will have some time for Q&A at the end. So if you want to wait till the end, that's totally okay. So my role here today is just to contribute to you. I want to make sure that you walk away from this today with maybe even just one or two nuggets that will help accelerate your hiring results. It's no secret right now that hiring has become very challenging. In fact, there are some people that say it's the #1 issue affecting small business in America today. And I can't say I disagree with that. But I want you to participate. I want to say it again. Throw in the Q&A, throw in the chat if you have questions. Q&A is going to be the easiest way for us to manage that because there are so many people on the call, but I want to make sure that I get your questions answered. Play tough with me too. Challenge me on some of these things that I'm going to share with you today. At the end of this, if you go through this and you're like, Ryan, this is amazing stuff. This is so cool. How can you and your team help me implement this in my business? I'll share that with you at the end on how we can connect and have that conversation. But if you're like some other business owners out there, you're just like, you know what? I really like what I'm doing. This stuff's not really going to work for me. That's okay too. I just hope that you get a little bit of value out of this. As I said, my name is Ryan England, CEO and founder of Core Matters. I grew up in an entrepreneurial blue collar family, which is one of the reasons I really like working with CareerPlug, because a lot of their clients, a lot of their partners are in that same blue collar space where we provide either B2B or B2C services. We have people out in the front line. And in my family, my dad was in manufacturing. He owned his own plant. And I remember growing up how cool it was to see my dad as an entrepreneur. And I'll never forget when he came home one day and he had this giant brick phone. I don't know if you remember those brick phones. I was talking to my wife last night. I'm like, I got to get a picture because there's probably people that have no idea what I'm talking about. But they were these phones that couldn't even fit in your pocket. You had to clip them to your belt. But he was so pumped that he could be called at night and on the weekends and when he was out in case there was a problem at the plant. I remember spending some late nights and even some weekends down at the plant with him in the warehouse, helping him out, not really understanding that the reason I was there helping him is because he didn't have to pay me anything. But it was because he couldn't find the right people. He struggled his entire career to find people he could trust to do the work he needed done. So I did like any good rebellious son would do. And I was like, I'm not going into the family business. I'm out of here. I'm going to corporate, because in corporate, I won't be tied down. I won't have to follow as many of the rules. I won't be stuck because corporate knows how to hire people. So I spent my time there, and then it wasn't too long that I figured out, yeah, this isn't any better. This isn't any better. So many more rules to follow. So there was a lack of inability. It was an inability for me to actually make some changes. I wasn't able to do the things that I thought needed to be done. So after a decade of corporate going, well, that didn't work for me either, I ended up back in business. And I went and started my own agency. And I was so excited to be able to support these small business owners who didn't have always the aspirations to have these giant, huge organizations, but they were there to support their family, to take care of some of their goals and their dreams, and maybe even provide for their family things they didn't have when they were growing up. So over the years, I had really developed a nice agency, but I got to a point where I was diagnosed with a health condition, and my doctors told me it was because of stress. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but being an entrepreneur, being a small business owner can be very stressful at times for some of us all the time. Part of that stress was driven by the fact that I had to turn away work. So I wasn't hitting my financial goals. It was all on me. Everything fell on me. And then in 2014, I became a dad. And I saw that if I didn't break this cycle, I was going to be in the same place my dad was when my kids were growing up. I was going to be excited to have the phone and have that leash to the office all the time. And I didn't want that. So it was through a chance encounter with a mentor where he explained to me that the ability to recruit is nothing more than great marketing and a great process. So I set out to build that. And as I started to build a team and hire people I could trust, I didn't have those health issues anymore because the stress was gone. We were at a point where we could go back to our existing clients and say, we can offer you more services now. We could take on new clients because we had the team to support it. And I got to actually spend the time I wanted with my family. I didn't have to sit there and say, well, I'm not going to be there as you grow up or for the school events and those kinds of things. Because of this process, I was able to get out of my business what I wanted. So I started sharing it with my clients. And as they started having success in hiring people they could trust, particularly the people doing the work, the frontline employees, the technicians, the laborers, the customer support reps, that's what we built our process around. And that's why I'm here today doing nothing but this for growing businesses. So before we get started and we start getting into training, I got a couple of questions for you. First one I want to ask, why is finding good people so hard? What is so challenging about that right now? Throw it in the chat for me real quick. What do you think? Why do you think it's so hard to find good people? Looks like we got some people raising their hands too. If you could just throw it in the chat right now or put in the Q&A. Also, if you want to chat Tammy something specific, I'll be more than happy to get to that shortly. They're already working. They're rare breeds. There's not enough applicants. Many don't do the work. No one's applying. Economy. So many things coming through right now. Well, I want to share with you some statistics to support a lot of what you're saying. They're already employed. That's why we're here. We're looking for passive job seekers, right? Here's the thing. Quality hires typically aren't on the job boards. So if we look at a platform like CareerPlug, who does an amazing job of not just helping us manage the pipeline, but they have great relationships with job boards. And we put all of our eggs in that basket. And we say, we're just going to put everything on the job boards because that's what we're hoping. That's where we're hoping to find people. We may be sadly disappointed. You see, you'll get 82% of your applications from the job boards. And maybe increasing your applicant flow and getting a bunch of applications that you eventually have to reject is part of your recruiting process. I hope it's not. But if all you're after is applications, job boards are where to go. But only a small fraction of those people are you actually going to hire. And these are actually some statistics that I pull from CareerPlug's state of recruiting report or whatever they call it. But every year they put out a report that says, here's what we see. Here's the data we see. You're also on average going to interview 20 people to make one hire. So I don't know about you, but a lot of times small business owners are wearing 15 or 17 or 30 different hats, and they don't have the time to manage this well. So what ends up happening is we end up getting into this situation where we have all this flood of applications coming in. We can't actually hire any of them because they're really not all that great. And at some point in time, we just throw our arms up and we just say, you know what, I'll deal with it when it becomes a real pain, or maybe I'll see if there's some people that know some people here in the community, and we can find people that way. The other thing to understand about the current job market is the millennials. They're here. They're going to stay. In fact, they make up 50% of the workforce right now. They just took this title back in December of last year. But 1 out of 2 people in the workforce are of the millennial generation. So it's time to hang up the millennial jokes about them being entitled or lazy. They're not. They are some of the hardest workers we see out there, because what millennials have done, unlike the Gen Xers, the baby boomers, is they don't really have this focus on work-life balance. You may have heard that term. Like, how do you balance the two? Instead, they focus on work-life integration. So the millennials are the ones that are going to be logging into the computer at the end of the day, or the ones that are taking some extra shifts because their plans got canceled. Just got a question. I believe this is being recorded and that CareerPlug will be sharing the recording with everybody. So you guys will have access to all of the information in this deck. Just wanted to let you guys know that. The other thing is most of them, more than 9 out of 10, prioritize skill development and training. And I know for a lot of people, a lot of small businesses, it's tough to spend time training people. But the truth is, we all have a training program. It might not be some federally accredited apprenticeship program. It might not be something formalized that takes 12, 15 months to get through. We all do some level of training. And if you've got good people on your team, they will help you train the good people on your team. So don't discount that when you're out there recruiting. And here's the thing about millennials. I hear a lot right now, we can't afford people. But millennials are willing to take a pay cut to work for a place where the purpose, the values, the mission, it aligns with their own. You see, millennials get out of bed in the morning and they want to feel like they're making a difference in the world. They want to feel like there's a reason that they're going to work. It's not just about the pay anymore. They want to feel like they're making a dent in the universe, or that they're serving an underserved group. So there's more to it than just pay. And then this is why I think so many of you are here today. We know that people are only passively looking for work. So how do you get in front of the passive job seekers? And just in case you don't know, passive job seekers are those that are currently employed. They're the ones that they don't need to rush out and get a new job. Maybe it's not a perfect fit for them, but it's not toxic. It's not painful. They're not bringing a lot of stress and baggage home at the end of the day. So they're buying their time until they can find the right company to work for. On the other hand, we have active job seekers. They fall into 2 buckets. Either one, they're unemployed and they need to find work ASAP. Or two, they're in an environment right now where it's so bad that if they had something lined up, they'd quit today. They wouldn't even put in notice because it's so toxic for them. The difficult thing about active job seekers is they're such a small percentage of the job market, 3 to 5% on average. 73% of the job market is looking for a new job right now. In fact, I just heard this the other day. They're expecting 80 million people in the United States alone to switch jobs in the next 12 months. So if you can get in front of these passive job seekers before another company does, you'll be more likely to fill your team with the right people. More than 73%. Now, a lot of times people ask me, well, why do so many people only passively look for work? And this is something really important to understand. In fact, this is something we spend a lot of time on in our program. When you work with us, we really focus on what's the job seeker's journey look like? Because if we can understand what a job seeker is going through, we can understand how to get in front of them before the competition. And here's the reason they do it. 75%, 3 out of 4 people say the process of looking for a job is one of life's most stressful events. Think about it. And for a lot of people on this call, you may not have looked for work in a long time. But if you can go back to that time when you had to look for work, think about what was going on in your life at the time. Think about the stress that you were dealing with. That's what today's job seekers deal with. On top of all the other stress that they have in their personal lives, this is something else that comes up. So if we can make this less stressful for them, if we can meet them where they are, we'll have a better chance at getting in front of passive job seekers. Got a question here about work-life integration. You may have heard the term work-life balance. That's where I balance the amount of time I'm at work with the amount of time I'm at home. That's where the 8-hour day, 40-hour work week came from. It's balancing that. A lot of businesses still have this mindset of you come in, you work your 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and what you do in your spare time is on you. Well, millennials, remember, think about millennials for a second. They grew up in an environment where they never saw a phone with a cord. Like maybe in an old sitcom, they saw that. But they grew up with the internet. They grew up with Facebook. They grew up with cellular phones, mobile devices. So they're used to this 24/7 always on society. I can get information whenever I want. They grew up in a world where Amazon existed and you could place an order for groceries at 2 o'clock in the morning and not have to leave your couch. Because of that, they want to work in a place where they can integrate work in their life. So for them to think, hey, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, I've put in a couple of hours, I'm going to run to a doctor's appointment or to my kid's recital or whatever that might be, to them, that makes sense. But then they're also the ones that at 10 o'clock at night, once the kids are in bed, they're going to be getting back online. They're going to be planning their routes. They're going to be thinking about tomorrow and how they can be super efficient in their work. So they integrate the two. And I know for a lot of us on this call right now, it might be difficult to manage that kind of work schedule. But if there's an opportunity for you to get creative with that and to let them know that there is some flexibility in the work arrangements, you'll have a better chance at getting those passive job seekers. Hope that answers the question for you, Tony. Yeah, so I've got a couple other questions here we've already answered. Perfect. So I want you to throw in the chat, how do you finish this sentence? What's the answer here? What do you always hear? Throw in the chat for me. People don't leave jobs, they leave. Yeah. Love it. Leadership, bad managers, toxicity, people, culture. So we all know the answer to this. We all know why people switch jobs. So if people are leaving people, if people are leaving a culture, if people are leaving office politics or an environment, why is it that as employers, we continue to post job ads that speak to the work we do and not the environment in which we work. Think about that for a minute. If I were to go to Indeed right now and I were to search for any open job, I would find a bunch of jobs that tell me about all of the rules and requirements for doing the work. But very rarely do I see anything about the management team or the leadership style. If people leave managers, they want to know the grass is greener. So let's tell them that it is. Let's share that in the job ad. Now, I know I'm talking about job ads and Indeed, but guess what passive job seekers do? They Google your company, they click on your careers page, and they look at what's open. And they want that information that shows them that it's better than where they're currently at. So you'll hear me talk a lot about attracting rock stars. And I believe that as most businesses, especially when we're filling our frontline positions, our technicians, our laborers, our customer service reps, we need more rock stars than we need superstars. Let me share with you what the difference is. So rock stars are the rocks of your team. They're reliable. They aren't looking to move up. They dream of working in their current job. These are the people that want to be known as experts in what they do. And if they're not supervisors today, odds are they're not going to want to be supervisors because they're not interested in new roles or responsibility. And as employers, we often think of rock stars as people who are lacking ambition. Well, why don't they want more? Why don't they want a career path? The thing to remember is that most employees don't think like entrepreneurs. We need to understand that they don't process things the way we do. They're not always thinking about the next bigger, better thing. They're focused on stability. They want stability in their personal life. They want stability in their professional life. And if we can engage rock stars, we can have a super productive team that is highly engaged. It's really important to understand that rock stars, just like passive job seekers, they don't have to switch jobs very often. They're good. They know they're good. But what often happens is because they don't switch jobs very often, they don't have the best looking resumes. They don't have the best interview skills. So if we don't have a process in place to support them where they're at, we're going to dismiss a lot of amazing people just because they don't know how to write a resume, or just because they don't know how to fill out a complete application because they don't do it very often, or maybe because they don't interview well. I'm telling you right now, anybody that comes in and interviews like a rock star, that's probably not the person that's going to stick around very long because they do it all the time. Now, let me talk to you about superstars. Superstars have a steep growth trajectory. They move up or they move on. So for small businesses, it's tough to hold on to superstars. They want to climb the corporate ladder, and often there's only so far they can go because the company's only going to get so big. They're the ones that want to change everything. And because of this, we often perceive them as not focused. Like they come in and they just mess stuff up. They're always testing new things. They're always thinking about new ways to do this. But their focus is on growth. How can we do bigger, better, faster? And for some of us, we need a superstar or two on our team, but we don't need them nearly as frequently as we need rock stars. Superstars interview incredibly well. Why? Because they're always looking for that next great opportunity. They're always open to a new position because for them, it's about growth. So we tend to hire superstars and then we get frustrated because they don't perform the way we want. So I hope that makes sense to you guys, but I really want you to have that mindset as we start thinking about what can we do to attract passive job seekers? How can we make this so easy for them? Here's the first thing I want you to do. I want you to share your story. Believe it or not, story is the oldest form of communication. And I know this might sound a little marketing and less recruiting. And that's because we at Core Matters believe that recruiting is a marketing activity. It is not an HR activity. We are putting an ad in front of the right people at the right time, and we're getting them to take action. It's the exact same thing your marketing team does to acquire you customers. Now, you may have noticed on the left-hand side of this slide here, we've got a copy of our model. This is the Core Fit hiring system. And this is what we do in our program with our clients and help them implement this process inside of their business. We teach them how to use it. We do the same thing for you. So not only can we help you build one of the most effective recruiting platforms inside of your business, but also teach you how to use it so that you're not beholden to a staffing agency or to recruiting firms or to a crazy wild job market like we're in right now. You can see right there at the center of this is our core. These are the things that are foundational to you. Remember, millennials will take a pay cut to work with someone whose vision and purpose align to their own. Well, that's in core. And if we can get the core right, we can figure out who the right people are. And sharing your story is a critical piece to this. Here's the truth. Your company's messaging matters. The way you message your open opportunities to the job market is important. And you'll reduce turnover by 28%. LinkedIn did a study on this. Reducing turnover by 20%. If you don't think turnover is costing you money right now, I want you to think again. I challenge you to think again, because turnover is expensive. Not just in money, but in time, in lost customers. The other thing to remember about job seekers, especially passive job seekers, remember, if I'm an electrician and I'm applying to be an electrician, I know what an electrician does. I don't need you to advertise that to me. I need to know why your company, your leadership team, your culture is better than the environment I'm in right now. See a couple of questions coming in here about pay. I'll get to that in just a second. The other thing to remember is that hiring managers think it's easier to attract someone if they're familiar with the company's brand. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the majority of people here on the call are small businesses. And even though you might have a widely recognized brand, you're still a small location. That means that people have to be able to find you in a sea of employers that are doing some crazy things around pay and signing bonuses and flexibility and all these other things right now just to stand out. So money is coming up in the chat quite a bit here. Let me talk about pay for a second. There is a point, because of economic factors, because of inflation, because of the cost of housing, the cost of commodities, we have to pay people a certain amount. And it's gone up significantly in the last 2 years because goods have become harder to get because of all of the shutdowns and the lockdowns and everything else. But I don't want you to think about being a victim in this sense, because as job seekers are starting to look for more money because they've got to pay the bills, other organizations are understanding that inflation is happening right now and we have to raise fees. The thing about pay is you've got to pay them enough to pay the bills. Now, I'm not saying they have to live outlandish lifestyles, but in some areas, it might be $12 an hour. In some places, it might be $18 an hour, enough to pay the bills. But once you've taken care of those core needs for them, everything else is not about money. And the people that are pursuing a bigger paycheck right now and signing bonuses, I mean, here's the thing about signing bonuses. If a signing bonus is enough to attract someone from another employer to your company, how long before your competition attracts them away with a signing bonus? I would encourage you to never do signing bonuses, because the kind of people that are attracted by signing bonuses are not the kind of people that are going to stick around. Out here in Phoenix right now, Amazon is one of the biggest competitors for anybody paying less than $20 an hour. If you apply, you get offered the job. There's no interview process. They're paying $18 to $20 an hour to work in the warehouse, and some positions, some locations, up to a $3,000 signing bonus. Who saw the article that came out about Amazon just a couple months ago? They turn their entire staff of 1.5 million people every 9 months. Can you afford to play that game? I'm going to guess that you can't. If you can't afford to play that game, then don't play that game. You need another way to attract people And sharing your story is going to be one of the most cost-effective ways to do that. So here's how you create your story. I'm going to give you a real simple process. Inside of our program, we go into a lot more depth. We actually help you write this as well. But align purpose and values. If you don't know what your core values are in your organization, if you don't know why your company exists, if you don't know where you're going, start there. Figure that out first, because people are driven by leaders who have a vision. They're attracted to leaders who know where they're going. So make sure that you've got a solid set of values, a solid vision that you can articulate, and you know why you exist. Then message it through their eyes. Remember, passive job seekers aren't going to the job boards. They're going on Facebook. They're reading about your company in the newspaper or online somewhere, or a friend or family member is saying, hey, you should check these guys out. They look pretty cool. So what do? They Google you. Go Google your company. If you're part of a larger brand, go Google your location. What's the first thing that comes up? Your Google reviews, your Yelp reviews. How do they look? Think about what the job seekers are going through. And then let the employees tell it. If you've got customer testimonials, I challenge you to get employee testimonials. Get your employees on camera telling about how awesome you are. Remember, people aren't looking for the same kind of work somewhere else. They're looking for a different environment in which to thrive. Let the employees tell them what that's like. And then keep it real. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't mislead them. Keep it real as to what's going on. And then rethink video. You'll increase the number of job applications you get by 34% when a video is included in your job posting. And I'm not talking about some generic, oh, we're awesome video. I'm talking about real life employees on camera talking about what it's like to work there. The leaders of the organization saying, and our employees talk like this because that's who we are. Equip your team with the video so they can share it. Imagine what it could do for your business if you just took out your iPhone, filmed a couple of employees talking about how awesome it is, or a couple of customers talking about how awesome your team was, and you gave that to your team to share on social media. What would they do for that? Got a question here. How can we figure out how the superstars from the people who interview all the time are just good at it? The first thing about interviewing, and we're going to get to interviewing in just a few minutes, but the thing about interviewing to remember is that an interview is a conversation. It's a first date. It should take a while. Fog the mirror interviews. Oh, you showed up on time. I'm so excited. Here's the keys to the truck interviews. That stuff needs to stop. Because the only way you're going to be able to differentiate a rock star from a superstar is by having a conversation with them. So let's talk about this employee experience for a minute. I would argue that if you aren't attracting good people into your company right now, whether actively or passively attracting them, it may be because through their eyes, you're not attractive. So become attractive to those you want to attract. You can see on our model here, we're moving around the circle now. So now we're looking at find. And I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of business owners have today is they're always out there looking for people. And I don't want you to look for people. I want you to look for the places they hang out. Where do your ideal employees hang out? Where do they spend their time? Because that's where you need to spend your time, and that's where you need to let them know how attractive your organization is. But for a lot of job seekers, being attractive means being responsive. It kills me how often I hear, yeah, I've got a whole pipeline full of people that have applied 3 weeks ago, and I just haven't had time to get to them yet. How would you treat your sales team if that was the response they gave you? Would you be okay with that answer? We're getting so many leads coming in. I don't have time to get to them. We'll get to them when we get to them. We wouldn't. So why do we do that with job seekers? 1 out of 2 job seekers said the number one frustration during the job search is a lack of response from employers. And if you don't have the automation turned on, like this is super easy for you guys to do this. Turn on the automation in CareerPlug. There are emails that can go out automatically, says, hey, we're so happy you applied. We got your application. Turn those on. You don't have to communicate it. Let the system do it. That's one of the values of CareerPlug. And organizations that invest in a strong candidate experience improve their quality hires by 70%. So when I'm talking about the employee experience or the candidate experience, this all starts from the moment they apply. How do they think about your organization? What do they think? How do they feel? Those are the things that are so important to them. Those are the things, that's where you get to meet the job seekers where they're at. Think about how it feels when they apply and in 5 minutes they get a phone call from you and go, oh my gosh, I'm super excited to talk to you. Like their day is going to light up because other employers aren't doing that. On the other hand, when you send an email after 3 weeks, you're like, hey, we just got your application. We're so excited. It's like, really? It's been 3 weeks. How can you still be excited? With them. For those of you in marketing, you may have heard this term before. What's in it for me? The me in this scenario is the job seeker. What's in it for them? 81% of job seekers say continuous communication would greatly improve the overall experience. That's 4 out of 5. Continuous communication. That means keeping them in the loop the whole time. If you tell them, hey, you're going to hear from us in 3 days because we're going to make a decision, and you're not ready to make a decision after 3 days, in 3 days, email them. Pull up their applicant profile inside a CareerPlug and shoot them a quick email or a quick text and say, hey, we're still thinking about you. Some things came up. We'll be back. Let us know if you're still interested, or let us know if you didn't find something else. But remember, rock stars, those people that we want, they're good. Somebody's going to snatch them up. So we've got to move quick. And almost the same number want you to provide a clear timeline of the hiring process. 83% of candidates want you to provide a clear timeline of the hiring process. A clear timeline, by the way, is not, hey, we'll get back to you. That's not a clear timeline. Be really clear for them. Remember, while we might be able to wait a week or 2 or 3 weeks to hire this person because we got other things going on, they got a family to feed. And if we don't move fast, they're going to take something that might not even be a good fit, and you're going to miss out. Almost 9 out of 10 candidates drop out or are lost because the hiring process takes too long. If you want to attract passive job seekers, you cannot string them along. You got to move fast. You got to keep them excited. You got to keep them motivated. If you're struggling to get people who are currently employed to come work for you, and they start seeing the same warning signs that they get from their existing employer because you're not communicating, because you're not getting back to them fast enough, that's probably one of the reasons they're looking. If you tell people you're excited to have them join your team, you got to show that through the actions as well. Your top candidates will be available for just 10 days before getting hired. Now, this is frustrating. This can be a challenge, because what happens here is too many of us take way too long to get back to applicants. In that same report that CareerPlug puts out, I know because I do a lot of work in the home services space, almost 7 days is the average time to first contact. 7. So if they're only staying available for 10 days, that means you got 3 days to wow them, to woo them, to get them excited to join your team. They may have already had conversations. They may have already had offers. You've got to move quickly. This is why you're on the call today. Passive job seekers. Half of the businesses out there say their top quality hires come from employee referrals. I'm sure if we went through this and we did a survey of everybody on this call right now, most of you would agree that when you get an employee referral, those are good people. And when you invest in employer branding, you're 3 times more likely to make a quality hire. Now, when I say employer branding, I'm not talking about graphics and logos and colors and websites, and I'm not talking about that. Employer branding is about communicating your message, getting that message of your core, what's important to you, the foundational things about your values and your vision and where the company's going, the information about your leadership team. When you can communicate that well, you will make a higher quality hire. And we already talked about this. Referrals are the best source for quality. You're 13 times more likely to hire from a referral. Somebody just asked, do employee referral bonuses work? They do not. So employee referral programs are amazing. We actually have a whole section in our program where we help you develop the right employee referral program for your company. Remember, millennials are attracted to purpose and vision and values. They're not attracted by money. They'll take a pay cut. We have clients all the time tell us, oh, I just got a guy, he took a $4 an hour pay cut. We just got somebody who took a $10,000 a year pay cut to come work here. Because people are not always driven by money. Only 6% of employees refer for money and recognition. Think about this for a minute. Looking for work is one of life's most stressful events. What are the odds for 50 bucks or 100 bucks or heck, even $500? I'm going to call up my buddy and say, hey guy, there's this opportunity. You ready to go through a stressful time in your life? You're willing to take a chance off of my recommendation? I'm not going to put myself out there like that. And neither will most of your employees. This is why those referral bonuses that are cash don't work. If you want an employee referral program that works, tie the reward or the incentive to your core, to the values, to the foundational things that are important inside of your business. And here's the thing, almost half of a company's new hires comes from referrals, yet only account for 7% of the applicants. So you're going to reduce the number of people you need to screen, but you're going to get half your hires from an employee referral program. So really look at that employee referral program. Andrea here says hers works in her industry, and that's awesome. If it's working for you, don't change it. The question I would ask is those people that do come in for referrals, how long do they stay? Is the program working from a longevity perspective? And if it is, don't change it. I've got a question here about an example of a great employee referral program. Now, I said that this has to be tied to your core, the things that are most important to your organization, those things that are foundational. So I'm going to give you an example of one that I've seen work many times, but this might not be right for you. So don't just take it and go duplicate it and then be frustrated, be mad at me because it didn't work. Okay. But one of them that we find is that a lot of times we find that job seekers want this work-life integration. They want some control over their schedule. They want some flexibility. For them, something that may be incredibly easy to implement if it's right for your business. Instead of paying them to bring in a referral, maybe after that person starts, the following month, they get to set their schedule. They get to choose whether or not they're on call for a week or two. And we've seen that work amazingly well because now maybe I'm more excited because I'm going to get to take that 3-day camping trip I've always wanted to take, or I can finally take my kids to Disneyland on a weekend and not be stressed about it that, oh, I might be on call and so I can't schedule or plan that stuff. So let them set their shift. What's that cost you as an organization? Cost you zero. Yeah, it might be a little stressful for whoever's putting the schedule together, but it can really do wonders in getting people to refer to you. Yeah, I see some people here in the chat saying millennials will certainly not take a pay cut. If all you're selling is pay and all you're selling is the same job they're doing now, I agree with you. They're not going to do it. But if you have an organization or you have a company that has a program in place that helps them achieve their personal goals, something that's invested in them personally, I see it all the time. Yep. Yeah. And that's the other thing to remember is millennials. I mean, the oldest millennials right now are just getting into their 40s. And the Gen Zers are the ones that are just entering the workplace. So the kids that are in college today, that are coming out of college, those are the Gen Zers. There is a big difference. I don't want to get too much into the different generations, but Millennials is who we have all the data on right now. All right, moving on. Interviewing for core fit. So we've built this amazing employer brand. People are finding out that we are hiring. We've got people on our team that are referring these people. Now we're sitting in front of them. We're at the table. What do? We definitely don't hold up the mirror and say, can you fog this? Because if you can, you're hired. We definitely don't say, oh, they showed up on time. They must have a great work ethic. Remember, we don't know why they're interviewing. We don't know why they're looking. Let's spend some time getting to know them. So I want to introduce you to the Core Fit screen. This is one of the tools that we help you build, put inside your business. If you don't have a structured interview guide right now, if you don't have a way to qualify these people and make sure they're the right fit for you and that they're going to stick around long-term, the interview is where that happens. So when we're developing our interview process, it must be open and transparent. This isn't a time where we get to sit here and we sugarcoat it and they sugarcoat it and we all sing Kumbaya. And then 2 weeks later, we're like, who the heck is this person? This isn't who I interviewed. But you've got to be transparent too. If your culture is not perfect, if your business isn't perfect, don't lie to them. They're going to see right through it. Make sure your interview process is objective and measurable. Remember, passive job seekers are interviewing you just as much as you're interviewing them. They are not desperate for work. They're currently employed. They're happy where they're at, or somewhat happy. But there's something that's compelling them to leave and go somewhere else. What is that? Let's figure that out. But by objective and measurable, what I mean is that anybody can interview that person using your process and come to the same conclusion as to whether or not they hire them. That means every single question you ask, you know what the right answer is, even the open-ended ones. It creates a trusting environment. If you're being open and transparent and they're being open and transparent, it's a lot easier to know that you can trust the person and that they can trust you. It creates an environment with honest feedback, and you can set proper expectations. If you are firing people in the first 90 days of employment, or they are leaving in the first 90 days of employment, it's a hiring issue. It is not a culture issue. It's not a fit issue. Somebody made a bad decision in the hiring process. And as employers, we need to own that. So here's 3 principles for incredible interviews. Always set expectations, time, purpose, and outcomes. I don't know if you do phone screening in your business, but if you do, it might sound something like this. Hey, John, this is Ryan. I got your application. I'm really excited to talk to you. Hey, this call's only 5 minutes. And the only reason we're going to talk for the next 5 minutes is to see if we can stand the sound of each other's voices. Maybe we just aren't going to like each other. And if we don't hit it off in 5 minutes, we're not going to hit it off long term. So at the end of this call, I'm going to let you know if I'm bringing you in for an interview or not. I'm not going to hang up the call and leave you hanging and say, we'll get back to you. It's going to be a yes or no at the end of the call. And then live up to that. Explain the overall process and then address any unmet expectations. We have a client right now that puts on their job ad, you will receive a call from us within 3 hours. It actually says that in the ad before they apply. Sometimes things happen and it's 3.5 hours. That's when you get to address the unmet expectations. They had an expectation of 3 hours and you didn't live up to it. Have a plan, solid interview questions. So I got a couple of questions here about interview questions. I'm going to tell you, I am not a compliance expert. So anything to do with vaccine requirements or anything like that, I'm just going to say you got to call your attorney or HR specialist. Our interview questions are always focused on behaviors. Yes, we got to know if they can do the job. And one of the 4 steps of our process in the interview is position fit. Make sure they're right for the position. But what we're really focused on is, are you the person that's going to fit here? Are we going to like working together? Am I going to be willing to invest in you long-term when things aren't perfect? This might be a shock to you, but most employees are going to screw up. Most employees aren't going to be perfect. Are we willing to invest in them to help them through that? Remember, millennials want training. They want guidance. They want to know that they're getting better. What are we doing to invest in them? So some of the questions we like to ask. So you know what? I'll tell you this. I've got a whole book on my website, and we can send it out as part of the recording where you guys can download it. We've got a book we wrote called How to Hire the Ones You Won't Want to Fire. We got an entirely different workshop on that, all about the interview questions and how to write them and how to craft them for your core. So if you guys would like a free copy of that, you can go check it out on my website after this recording. But the question should always be behavioral based, because we're focused on people that fit. We're focused on the people that have the right behaviors, that are going to do the things we want, that are going to take care of our customers the way we want. We have to have measurable results. Subjectivity needs to go out the window. No bonus points for wearing the right sports team's cap. Like, get rid of the subjectivity. Can we measure this person's ability to perform on our team? We use a lot of behavioral assessments to do this. And if you've never heard of behavioral assessments, it's one of our tools that we can show you how to use and how to really ramp up the learning between you and the job seeker when you're interviewing them. Make sure the process is objective. And then, like I said before, focus on behavior versus skills. Interview authentically. This is one of the biggest challenges we see business owners have. They come in all excited, all pumped. They sell the company on how awesome it is. And then they ask the job seeker a couple of questions. The job seeker regurgitates what you just spent 20 minutes telling them. And you never really get to know the person. So how do you interview authentically? It's all in that book that if you guys want to download it, but the idea here is to get them to remove their mask. Rockstar applicants, passive job seekers are going to be uncomfortable in the interview process. They know this is a stressful endeavor. Remove that stress for them. Get them comfortable. Ask them questions that are actually relevant to who they are and what they want out of their career goals. Determine a cultural fit. Our focus is on quality, and quality comes from culture fit. Most of us can teach someone to turn a wrench, or to use a software platform, or to talk to a customer. What we can't teach is someone showing up on time, someone actually being nice to the customer, someone cleaning up the job site. So make sure they fit your core, and then review the skills that you can't or aren't willing to teach. And then the last one here is onboard for success. If the recruiting process is equivalent to the dating world, right? You're dating the person, and at the interview, you make them the offer. That's the equivalent of asking them to marry you. The onboarding process is the honeymoon. Let's not screw this up. If you've got turnover issues, if you've got lack of engagement, if you have people not interested in referring people to your business, it's probably because the honeymoon didn't last long enough for them to get fully engaged. Only 12% of employees strongly agree that their organization does a great job onboarding new employees. 12%. That means there's 88% of us out there that aren't doing it well. And employee turnover can be as much as 150% in the first 18 months of employment. If you're Amazon, it's 9 months. I don't know where you're at, but turnover is expensive and it's very time consuming. Got a question here about the information applying to Gen Zs. Absolutely. This information applies to any of the generations. The thing about this is we still need to create questions and to create a process that applies to what they want, what their goals are, what their skills are. How many of us ask people what their personal goals are during the interview process? I don't care what generation you are. If an employer asked me that, I'd be like, wow, they actually might care. I love it. Everybody, yeah, defending it. I ask them. I love that. I love that. Yes, I will tell you that's not the norm. So if you do, you are ahead of the curve. And this will be a much easier process once you can get your open positions in front of those passive job seekers. So here's the thing. In the first 2 weeks, when you're onboarding someone, treat them like a rock star. And some people ask me, like, what's that look like? I'm like, I don't know. Pick your favorite celebrity or rock star. And if they showed up to a venue, what would they expect? Do they expect there not to be any fanfare? Do they expect no one to be happy they're there? I can't tell you how many times in small business, I hear this all the time. Someone shows up for their first day of work and HR hasn't even finished processing paperwork. They're not even in the system yet so that they can log their hours. Maybe they do computer work and they don't even have logins yet. That is not how you treat them like a rock star. Celebrate them. Stop with the cakes and stuff when people retire, and start doing the cakes and lunches when people show up for their first day of work. And I know I hear this all the time. Well, I can't do that because they might not stick around. Well, maybe they're not sticking around because you're not doing that stuff. Engage them, talk to them, get to know them. Don't put them to work day one. Let them get to know their team. Remember, they're here. They're like, okay, you sold me that this was a better place to be. Prove it to them. Ask them for feedback. What can we do better? What did you think about our process? Was it fast enough, slow enough? Did you get the information you wanted? I mean, you decided to say yes. So let's talk about that. I love that. We schedule lunch with different people on the team. I love that. Engage your people. In the first 4 weeks, define the role. Keep in mind here, we're talking a full month that we are giving them to really figure out what their role is. Define their measurables, metrics, scorecards. If your frontline employees do not know how to win, you're setting them up to fail. Give them specific objectives, give them feedback, and continue to review the overall process. This is a conversation. You're in the honeymoon phase. You're both supposed to be very excited about this. And then address any unmet expectations. If you're turning people in the first 90 days or you're firing people in the first 90 days, it's because expectations weren't met on one or both sides. Bring them up, call it out. In the first 12 weeks, 90 days. Yes, we think the full 90 days. Develop ownership. Embrace their failures. People aren't perfect. And if we go into this thinking that every single person that we hire has got to be perfect, we're going to be very disappointed. Create a foundation for success. Now, if you've got someone who continues to fail at the same thing over and over and over again, and they can't learn, that's a different issue. I'm not saying we tolerate that. But people aren't going to be perfect, and they're definitely not going to do it our way. Unless they're mind readers, they're not going to know how to do it our way unless you have a solid onboarding program. Help them to create results. And then at the end of 90 days, let them set their own goals. Maybe you come in and you say, hey, you've got to take 5 calls a day. You've got to visit 3 job sites a day. At the end of 90 days, have that conversation. What do you think is the right results for you? And then you can have that conversation. I know I've run through this very quickly in the last hour. We actually spend 90 days working together. And I'm going to share with you in just a second. We actually spend 90 days building out what we just talked about here. But let me review the 4 surefire steps for attracting and retaining passive job seekers. First one is share your story. If you don't have a way to communicate who you are and where you're going with the job market, you're going to struggle to find good people. If you don't have something that you can equip your team with, your friends, your family, your network with, to put in front of passive job seekers, you're going to struggle to find people. Become attractive to those you want to attract. You know, if you feel like you're just getting the bottom feeders, and those are the only people applying for your jobs, those are the only people that you're hiring, really think about, what are you doing to attract the not bottom feeders? Are you attractive to the people you want to attract? Are you fishing in the right spot? You know, if all you're getting is bottom feeders, stop fishing in the city canal. Go to a different place to find the right people. Interview for core fit. Make sure that the people you're talking to align to who you are at your core, who you are as an organization, what you value, what's important to you, how you take care of the customers. And then onboard for success. Treat them like a rock star. Celebrate them. Actually follow through with some actions that say, yes, we are excited to have you here. Show that to them. All of these things will get out to those passive job seekers. When you've got a story to share, when you're attractive, when you've got a solid interview process, you really get to know each other and you're onboarding them so they can be successful. These are the 4 core components of getting passive job seekers to notice your business and to start applying. You'll also find that when you do these things, your retention will go up. Not just because you're making better hiring decisions, because your existing team is going to be more excited to be there. So here's what I'd love to do. Identify one opportunity, whether it's one of them that I addressed here or something else that just popped in your mind. What's one opportunity for attracting passive job seekers? I'd love for you to throw that in the chat right now. We can create a little bit of a system of accountability, because when you tell others, you never know who's going to be watching. So what's one opportunity for you right now to attract passive job seekers? And here's why I tell you to pick one. Have a solid careers page. I love it. You are on the right webinar. One of the things that CareerPlug does amazingly well is gives you a solid careers page and share your story. Yes. Yeah. Oh, you had to pick 2, Ryan. That's okay. That's all right. Include video of our team members, and all of those things can go on your careers page. They can go on your website. They can go on social media. Yes. Share your story. That is amazing. And hey, if you want, I actually have a workshop on creating your story. Let CareerPlug know, and maybe we can do a future webinar on that. Or if you'd love to reach out to us personally, we can let you know when the next one's coming up. But here's why it's so important to identify one opportunity, because there are so many more things to think about. So many more things outside of what we just addressed today when it comes to attracting and hiring and retaining the right people. Yes, Rob, have urgency. We are all so desperate to hire people. We need that urgency to come through in the process. So let me share with you a couple of the results our clients have seen by implementing our system. So Jack was a little bit larger organization, and he had 50 people he needed to hire. 50 people. We helped him do that in less than 90 days. Instantly, almost overnight, we helped him to become attractive. We put that in front of the right people so that he could fill up his pipeline. Mike received 83 new applications in only 4 days. So for those of you that think, hey, I just need more applications, the right job ad, the right story, knowing where to put that information is going to help you attract the right people. And by the way, I don't want to hear any of you say, well, CareerPlug can't get me that kind of app, that kind of volume. That was a CareerPlug account. We turned on CareerPlug. Now, we made a whole other problem for him because now he had 83 applications to go through. But it's really about having the right marketing and the right messaging and getting it in front of the right people. Jennifer reduced her turnover by 414% in 12 months. Audrey hired a service manager who took a $10,000 a year pay cut. We just got a phone call a couple of weeks ago. HVAC contractor hired a guy that just got out of school, took a $4 an hour pay cut to come work for him. So the people that say it's only about money, there's so many other things for that. Randy's using the system to replace people. He was hiring people the wrong way for a long time. And now he's getting rid of his B and C players because he knows how to attract A players. And we heard this from our ZipRecruiter partner rep. They called us and said, we need to know what you're doing because you are getting 6 times more applications on your ads than our other partner reps. What's going on? Help us understand what you're doing. So imagine being able to get 6 times the number of applications if you are spending money on ads through Indeed or ZipRecruiter. So here's a little bit about our program. We've got a 90-day training and coaching program, and our clients will get results in as little as 10 days, and so will you. In fact, a lot of the people here are already on CareerPlug. And if you are, you're already ahead of the game because that is one of the key tools that we launch right away. We provide training via our online platform. We've got implementation and training support to help you automate this hiring process. Remember what I said, it's not getting more applications, it's getting more quality applications. And through automation, we can help scale that so we can create that urgency, so we can get back to people right away. Our team provides all the technical support. So if you've got questions about the way we're configuring CareerPlug, if you've got questions about the way that we're creating some of this content, we are here doing this work alongside you. It's not just you show up for training and then that's it. Because we regularly schedule one-to-one private coaching sessions. We will work directly with your team on making sure that you have the best recruiting process inside of your business. You get the entire pre-hire process and you customize what you need. We already know what works. We do this across multiple industries. We do this with all sorts of business sizes. So we know what's working and what's not. And as the market's changing, we're updating our content to provide you the most relevant information. We've got our ready to go guides, tools, and templates. And then we give you access to our 5 power tools to accelerate your hiring results. Inside, we have a suite of tools, but there are 5 that are really going to accelerate your results. And if after the 90 days, you still want to work together, we've got options for that. But I do not like the idea of being captive and creating this for you and saying, okay, now you're stuck. That's a different model, and that's not ours. We want to teach you how to do this. We want to help you implement the process so that you can take it and do whatever you need to scale your business. So if you're tired of not attracting good people, I'm going to suggest it's time that you work with a guide. I didn't get a chance to do a lot of fishing analogies here, but one of the things that I think about when I think about recruiting is we are attracting people. We are fishing for people in a crowded job market, and we're competing against lots of people. And if we don't know where to go to find the fish, to find those job seekers, we're going to be left out. So I had an opportunity just a couple months ago to go deep sea fishing. Always wanted to do this, never done it before. And because I was new, I was just like, how do you find fish out here? I'm off the Florida coast, 22 miles and 1,500 feet of water. And I'm looking back at Florida going, how do we know there are fish here? This is insane. There's this giant ocean. How do we find them? There is this huge 80 million job seekers, 80 million employees are going to be switching jobs in the next 12 months. How do you get in front of 1 of 80 or 5 of 80 million? They're out there, but how do you do it? So we chartered a boat. This is Captain Dan. We're out here. We're 2 hours on the boat already. Nothing's happening. He's like, that's it. Rod's in the water. We're going for it. I was like, how do you know there are fish here? And he gives me little tips, things he's looking for. He gives me like, see that bait fish over there and these birds, and I'm learning from him. And I'm excited about it because I'm learning something new. I'm finding ways to identify where the fish are at. And it wasn't long after that that I reeled in my first mahi-mahi. This is a 4-foot fish, the biggest fish I've ever caught. In the middle of the ocean where you can't see land, in 1,500 foot of water, and our guide, Captain Dan, knew exactly where to go to get the fish because this is all he does. And this is all we do at Core Matters. We work directly with our clients to help them hire better people faster. So if you need help hiring in your business, if you need a better process, if you need a better system, if you need a guide to help you through this, I'd love to be your guide. I encourage you to go to corefithiring.com. Once you go there, there's an opportunity for you to book directly on our calendar. No back and forth. You pick the time that works best for you and your team, and we will be there. We can share with you exactly what our process looks like, how we can help you implement it in your business so that you can start hiring better people faster right away. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Natalie and Lauren, for having me here today. Really enjoyed teaching on this content.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I feel like I took a lot away there. And just to repeat for the group, we are going to send out this recording. I'll send the decks and other resources as well as this contact information for Core Matters. Hopefully we got to a lot of questions in the Q&A and chat throughout too, but I'll take a look and I'll follow up with anything that's CareerPlug specific if I missed something.
And I've got a few more minutes too, if you do. If anybody has any questions right now, if you want to throw them in the Q&A, it looks like I missed a couple. If you don't mind, Natalie, if we got a few more minutes.
Go ahead.
I got one here. Why do many applicants not complete assessments? What is best time in the process to send assessments, and can assessments be too rigorous for a candidate? So let me start with the last one. Yes, they can be too rigorous. We've talked to some employers, they have like a 2-hour assessment process. Now, if you're hiring a CFO, maybe that's worth it. But if you're hiring a technician or someone in the trades or someone on your front line, 8 to 10, 12 minutes tops is really what you want. The best time in the process. So like I said, I'm not a compliance expert, but my understanding is about behavioral assessments is you have to send them at the same time to everyone, because otherwise you can create some bias. If you send it to some people and not to others, or if you send it at different stages in the process, you can create this, and it's an unintended bias, but it can really happen. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we send it to everybody at the exact same time. There are some assessments out there where you get unlimited. And if you get unlimited, you send it an application. That's my recommendation. There are others, if you have to pay per assessment, that you would send it later in the process. I typically say it's right around that pre-screen stage once you've identified someone that you want to work with.
Yeah, and if I could just add, Ryan, so if you're using the assessments in CareerPlug, which are unlimited, right? You can use them for anyone. What I have found is if you're struggling with people ghosting early in the process, or that kind of, getting people past that first stage, is to send the assessment after you've had some kind of real contact with the person. Maybe that is a phone screen, or maybe you ask people to take the assessment before the phone screen, showing that you're investing a little bit in their candidacy before they're spending a lot of time on an assessment, and then they never actually hear anything from you. All they've done is apply. Now they have to take this big assessment. So early in the process, but just kind of think about that with your timing. A lot of times when I'm hiring for positions, I'll do the phone screen and then send the assessment as the next step.
And I love that. So we talk a lot about the language we use. So applicants are people that have applied. Candidates are people you want to talk to, that you want to move in the process. Like you've qualified them at some point. Once they become a candidate, that's when you send the assessments. And I think that's what you just said, right, Natalie? Yep. Okay. Awesome.
I like
Awesome. Rob, I hope that answers your questions. Loretta asked a question here. If you've got CareerPlug, will we no longer use them? No. CareerPlug, the applicant tracking system, is actually one of the key components of our program. And one of the reasons we've partnered with CareerPlug is because we believe that they are one of the best applicant tracking systems for small businesses, and especially for franchises. So if you have CareerPlug, you will absolutely still be on CareerPlug. What we do at Core Matters when it comes to CareerPlug is we help you optimize it. We actually can dig into the admin, the settings, and make the tweaks and changes that we find will get you the best results. Now, sometimes you've worked with their hiring experts to help you do that. But if you don't follow through on the other end on how you're using the system, how quickly you're responding, how quickly you're communicating with people, if you're not moving people through the process and the system isn't getting used correctly, we help with that as well during our program. So no, you would absolutely stay on CareerPlug because the ATS is a key part of the automation. All right. How do you know which assessment to use for certain roles you are trying to fill? So Kate, help me out with that question a little bit more. Throw a comment in the chat or something. What specifically are you looking for when you say which assessment? Do you have multiple assessments available? Are you talking skills or behavior? If you could help me with that, and then I'll come back to you if you're still on the call. So this would be multiple options for assessments inside of CareerPlug.
Yeah,
Natalie, I'm giving that one to you.
I'll take the start of that. So there's 2 assessments available to you in CareerPlug. There's the math and verbal, which is like a cognitive assessment. And then there's a personality assessment, which you can customize based on the different characteristics you'd like to measure. So what I would say for that, the personality assessment, especially, like you could go through and select every category and create a very long, intensive assessment for someone, which I do not recommend doing. What I try to advise people on, okay, what's important to measure? Is it sales potential, assertiveness, that customer service focus, whatever that may be? These are more behaviors, characteristics for the job in that assessment. Is think about what are the 3 to 5 most important things for that role. What are those core competencies that you're looking for? Some are really obvious, right? If you're hiring for an account executive, you probably want to have, sales potential in there, or that assertiveness, that goal orientation for that. Same with customer focus. So narrow it down to what is like most important for the role. For the math and verbal one, I actually don't recommend you do that for all roles. Kind of think about what's important in the responsibilities of the job itself. An important compliance thing that goes with assessments too, if you're going to use them to help make hiring decisions, is that they have some kind of connection to the responsibilities and qualifications of the job. So not just sending assessments for the heck of it. Is it actually going to tell you something about this person and their candidacy? If you're using assessments outside of CareerPlug, you can still link them in the system. For example, there is the Burke assessment is one. It's a more in-depth sales assessment that we've used for some positions and send a little later in the process. And you can still do it there. Lots of assessments out there, but if we're talking about just those CareerPlug assessments, that's where I would start. What are the most important characteristics you're looking for?
Yeah. And yes, you would do different assessments based on the role.
Yes.
Because a customer service rep and a technician, their brain works differently, or at least it should, right? One is really going to be focused more on the technical aspects of the role, whereas the CSR is going to be focused more on the personal connection aspects. How are they communicating and how are they talking? So you'd want to select the assessments based on what you're really looking for, just like Natalie said. And sometimes it might be 3 assessments. Now, I would encourage you to think about what are the things that you absolutely must assess. We could assess the heck out of people. Like there's so many assessments out there, both in CareerPlug and third party. So make sure that you're assessing for the things that are absolutely critical. The things that if they don't pass, if they don't give you the report that you need, or it doesn't look like they're passing a skills part of the assessment, that you won't hire them, then that's important. But if they're nice to haves, I wouldn't suggest you assess them on it. So, and then what's a good source to offer health benefits to your employees? This is probably one of the hardest questions to answer. And so I'm going to give you an answer you're probably not going to like, Bill, but you got to start with your insurance reps. I know that if you're under 50 employees, it's really hard right now. There are a lot of new things that have cropped up, in our organization. Like we don't have traditional health insurance, but there are Medi-Share plans out there and stuff like that. But I don't have any particular resource for you for that. But I just know that there are things outside of just the traditional health benefits that are out there for you. Direct primary care is a big one right now that a lot of people are talking about, where you pay a monthly fee and you have unlimited access to a set of doctors. So I hope that helps answer the question, Bill. But yeah, other than that, I don't have like a good website to go to or a person to contact. All right. Are there any other questions out there? If not, I'll let you guys go a few minutes early. And as Natalie said, she will be sending out the recording to everyone that registered for the workshop today. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you again, Natalie. I kind of geek out on this stuff sometimes, but it's just so much fun. And it's why we do what we do, because we just want to support small business owners and helping them hire, because it's a real challenge right now with so much competition. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ryan. You'll hear from us shortly, everyone, with some follow-up. In the meantime, have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Thank
Thanks.
you.